My name is Nathan Grisham, 32-year-old man from Bentonville, Arkansas. After my father's death, I thought I was burying a man I barely knew. But tucked away in his attic was a box of letters that shattered everything I believed about my family, and myself. It turns out, the woman who raised me wasn't my mother. And the sister I never knew might be the only person who can help me uncover the truth they all tried to bury. Before we dive into this chilling true-life mystery of buried secrets, stolen identities, and family betrayal, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and turn on notifications so you never miss a story that'll keep you up at night. Now, let me tell you what I uncovered after my father died, and how a box in the attic destroyed everything I thought I knew about my life. I stood under the low Arkansas sun, sweat creeping down the back of my suit, watching them lower my father's coffin into the red dirt. The preacher's words fluttered like moths in the heat, soft, rehearsed, empty. I scanned the crowd. They showed up in good numbers. Neighbors, church folks, a few of Dad's old army buddies in rumpled uniforms. But no one looked like they were really mourning. They just stood there with their plastic sunglasses and church fans, saying what they thought they were supposed to say. Your daddy was a strong man. He helped me fix my roof after that storm in '09. Served his country proud. But no one said they missed him. Not one person cried. Not even Mom. I kept my mouth shut and nodded. But inside, something bitter rolled around in my chest. Randy Lee Grisham might have been a pillar of the community, but at home, he was a fortress, cold, silent, and locked from the inside. He never taught me how to shave, never said I love you, never once asked me how I was doing. If I disappointed him, which I often did, I'd get a look like I was a stranger who wandered into his house by accident, and now he was dead. Just like that. A heart attack in the garage while changing the oil in the truck. He was gone before the wrench hit the floor. Back at the house, the silence was louder than the funeral. Mom shuffled from room to room like a ghost, mumbling about casseroles in the fridge. I offered to go through his things. She just nodded. I started in the attic the next morning. It was hot as sin up there, dust thick enough to taste. Boxes stacked to the beams. Most of them labeled, taxes 1997, army stuff, Nate's school crap. I was about to call it a day when I noticed one box tucked behind a rusted tackle box and a broken floor fan. No label. Just duct tape wrapped tight around it like someone was trying to keep it shut for good. That alone made my stomach twist. I dragged it into the light. The box was old, edges soft, corners curled, tape brittle but still holding. No rattling inside. No weight of tools or gear. It felt personal. I sliced the tape open with my pocket knife. Inside were paper bundles, some wrapped in twine, others loose. Letters. Dozens of them. Each one yellowed with age and sealed with my father's handwriting. But the name on every envelope wasn't my mother's. It was Sarah Ray Henderson. I didn't know the name. But something about it made my skin crawl. I sat there for a long time, attic fan creaking above me, letter in hand, heart thudding. My father had secrets, and something told me. I just opened the first one. I opened the first letter with shaking fingers. The paper was thin and smelled faintly of smoke and cedar, like it had been tucked away for decades. My father's handwriting was unmistakable, rough and angular, but the tone was something I'd never heard from him before. My dearest Sarah Ray, it began, I dream about your hair. The way it curls when it rains. I still see your green eyes when I close mine at night. I read the rest with a growing tightness in my chest. It wasn't just some harmless old fling. These were love letters. Intimate. Obsessive. The kind of words he never even spoke to my mother. Some mentioned places I'd never heard of, back roads, cabins, cheap motels on the edge of town. Others talked about what could have been. But the one that made me sit down hard on the attic floor was dated April 1993. I was born in June of that year. The baby is coming soon, it read. If she won't let me be there, promise me you'll tell our child about me. I'll come for you both when I can. Just wait a little longer. That was it. That was the match striking the gas. I sat frozen, staring at my name written on a separate envelope, for the boy, if he ever finds this. I didn't open that one. Not yet. Instead, I packed the box, letters and all, and carried it downstairs like it was a bomb. My mother was in the kitchen, staring blankly at a cup of cold coffee. Her hair hadn't been brushed in days, and she looked as worn out as the house around her. "Mom," I said, setting the box on the table with a heavy thud. "Who is Sarah Ray Henderson?" She didn't look up. Didn't blink. I waited. After a long moment, her lip trembled. "You weren't supposed to find those." I wasn't supposed to know what, exactly. That Dad had a whole other life. That he was in love with someone else. That there was a baby. She flinched at the word baby. "You don't understand," she whispered. "You don't know what it was like." I stepped closer. "Then explain it to me." She shook her head, covering her face with both hands. "She was my sister." The room tilted. "What?" "Sarah Ray was my younger sister. She got pregnant by Randy just before we got married. He told me it was over with her. Said she was unstable. That she'd leave town and never come back. And she did." My voice cracked. "And the baby?" Her silence was answer enough. There was more. I could feel it, pressing against the walls like a storm building. But she wouldn't give it to me, not yet. I walked out of the house, box in hand, and sat on the porch as the cicadas screamed around me. My father had lied. My mother had covered it up, and somewhere out there, someone had lived a whole life shaped by their betrayal, and maybe, so had I. I didn't sleep that night. The letters stayed piled on the kitchen table, some opened, most not. Mom had locked herself in her room and hadn't come out since she dropped that bombshell. Sarah Ray was her sister. And I kept staring at the envelope labeled for the boy. I wasn't ready to open it. Not yet. Not until I had more of the truth. By sunrise, I was already on my laptop, digging. Public records, old newspaper clippings, anything I could find on Sarah Ray Henderson. But there wasn't much. A birth certificate from 1971. A few mentions in old yearbooks from Bentonville High. Then nothing. Like she'd vanished into thin air sometime around 1993, that was the year I was born. I checked marriage licenses, death notices, DMV records. Eventually, a hit popped up, Sarah Ray Henderson, listed as a previous tenant on a rural address near Springdale. Last known activity, 2010. She was marked as deceased. My heart sank. But just below her name was another, Eleanor Ray Henderson, age 30. Same address. Same surname. Likely her daughter. I stared at the screen, my thoughts spinning like a bad dream I couldn't wake up from. If the letters were true, if Sarah Ray had the baby my father wrote about, then Eleanor might be my half-sister, or something else. Was I that baby? Had Sarah Ray raised her daughter while someone else raised me? I couldn't stop the thoughts once they started. The timelines were too tight. The letters too specific. And my mother's silence. It screamed guilt. I found a business listing for a dog grooming shop in Fayetteville called Paw Prints Polish, registered under E. Henderson. It wasn't much, but it was enough. I called. No answer. I called again. Voicemail. By the time afternoon rolled around, I was behind the wheel of Dad's old Ford truck, heading north on Highway 71 with the box of letters riding shotgun. Every bump in the road jostled it like it might burst open again and spill secrets all over the cab. As I passed into Springdale, memories clawed at me, cookouts, summer fairs, a trip to the Ozark Folk Center when I was 7. My parents never liked coming this way. Said the traffic was bad. Said it felt too busy. Maybe the truth was simpler, maybe they were just afraid of running into a ghost. I pulled up to the address, an old bungalow nestled between a car wash and a tattoo shop. A sign on the gate read Paw Prints Polish, appointments only. A faded wind chime rattled in the breeze. I killed the engine and sat there, staring at the front door. Was she inside? Did she know anything? Did she know me? All I had was a name, a hunch, and a lifetime of lies, but I had to know, because if Eleanor Ray Henderson was who I thought she was, then everything I believed about my family was a lie. And someone was going to have to answer for it. I don't know what I expected when the door opened, maybe someone older, or more worn down. But there she was, Eleanor Ray Henderson, barefoot in jeans and a threadbare Razorbacks t-shirt, a wet dog towel slung over one shoulder. Her auburn hair was pulled back, and her green eyes, our father's green eyes, narrowed the second she saw me. "Can I help you?" she asked cautiously, gripping the door just tight enough to let me know she wasn't exactly feeling neighborly. I cleared my throat. "Are you Eleanor Henderson?" She hesitated, nodded once. "My name's Nathan Grisham," I said. I think we might be related." That got her attention. I held up the box of letters like a peace offering. "I found these in my dad's attic. Your mom's name, Sarah Ray, is on every one of them." Her eyes darted to the box, then back to me. "She didn't invite me in." "Not right away." I saw the hesitation, the wariness, the defense she wore like armor. "Sarah Ray was my mom," she said slowly. "She passed in 2010. "I'm sorry," I said, and meant it. "But I think, my dad was more than just a name in her past." A long pause, then she stepped aside. 5 minutes. The house smelled like lavender and wet fur. Dog toys littered the floor, and a schnauzer growled at me from behind a baby gate. Ellie gestured to the kitchen table. We sat. I set the box between us and opened it. She reached in like it might bite her. Her fingers trembled as she pulled out the first envelope. "Read her mother's name on the front." Opened it, then another. And another. I watched her face change, from suspicion to confusion, to something harder. Anger. "Sadness. I always thought Mom had someone once," she murmured. She never said. But she used to stare out the window some nights like she was waiting for someone who never showed up. I nodded. "My dad. Randy Grisham. He married your aunt." "My mom. He kept all this hidden until he died." She looked up at me then, really looked. "And why are you here, Nathan?" "Because I need to know who I am. And I think you might, too." She studied me for a long moment. Then, quietly, "We do look alike." We sat in silence for a while, flipping through faded pages. Love. Promises. Regrets. Mentions of a baby. Of hope. Of fear. Then Ellie paused on one letter. Her brow furrowed. "This one's from July 1993, she said. "Right after you were born." She handed it to me. It read, "They'll never let me see him. She's taking him. I can't stop it. Please forgive me, Sarah Ray. Tell him I tried." I stared at it, numb. "She's taking him," I echoed. Ellie's voice dropped to a whisper. "He's not talking about me, is he?" "No," I said, the words catching in my throat. "He's talking about me." The room felt suddenly colder. Something had been stolen, and we were just starting to uncover what. It was Ellie's idea to go through her mother's old things. "She kept a fireproof safe under her bed," she said, wiping her palms on her jeans. "I haven't touched it since she died. I didn't think there was anything in there but tax stuff." We carried it into the living room, both of us jittery with the kind of nervous energy you get before a storm hits. She still had the key taped to the back of her mom's old dresser. A quiet click, and the lid creaked open. Inside, there were faded insurance papers, an expired passport, and a small stack of personal documents in a plastic sleeve. Ellie thumbed through them absently, until she stopped cold. "Here," she said, her voice low. This isn't mine." She handed it to me. I took the document, and the moment my eyes landed on the top line, "Certificate of Live Birth," my heart started pounding. Child's name, Nathan Randall Henderson. Date of birth, June 18, 1993. Mother, Sarah Ray Henderson. Father, Randy Lee Grisham. The room spun. No, I whispered. This has to be a mistake. My last name is Grisham. My mother is, I stopped myself. Suddenly, even saying it felt like a lie. Ellie sat down across from me, stunned. You weren't raised by Sarah. You were raised by my aunt. Your birth certificate says my mom is your real mother. I don't understand. My voice was shaking. Why would she give me up? Why would my aunt raise me as her own? Ellie rubbed her temples. Mom never told me anything about you. She always said she lost something, someone, but I thought she meant our dad walking out. I tried to breathe. This means your mom had me. And somehow, my aunt, her sister, ended up raising me like I was hers. No one ever told me. Not once. It felt like the ground had dropped beneath me. Every memory I had of childhood, birthdays, school plays, scraped knees on the back porch, suddenly felt like they didn't belong to me. Or worse, like they'd been stolen. Ellie stared at the safe, her eyes wide. What if it wasn't her choice? I looked up. What do you mean? What if Sarah didn't give you up, she said. What if she was forced to? By your father. Or your aunt. Or both. The thought chilled me to the bone. I looked down at the certificate again. My full name. Sarah's name. Proof in ink and paper that everything I thought I knew was a facade. I need answers, I said. From the woman who raised me. From the one who called herself my mother. Ellie nodded slowly. And I want to know what they took from my mom. We sat there in silence, two strangers bound by blood and betrayal. The lies were thick, but now we had proof, and neither of us was going to let it stay buried. The screen door banged shut behind me as I stepped back into the house I'd grown up in, though now it felt more like a stage set than a home. Everything was in its place, the doily-covered table, the framed Bible verse by the stairs, the faint scent of lemon polish. But nothing looked the same through the eyes of someone who knew the truth. She was in the kitchen, humming softly as she dried dishes. Like nothing had happened. Like the world hadn't just turned upside down. Where is it? I asked. She didn't turn around. Where's what, Nathan? My birth certificate. The real one. She paused, towel clenched in her hands, then placed the plate down with care. Slowly, she turned to face me. So. You found her. I didn't speak, her eyes dropped to the floor. I always knew it might happen one day. Why didn't you tell me? My voice cracked. Why did you lie to me my entire life? She folded the towel with mechanical precision. Because it was the only way to save you. Save me? From what? My own mother. From a life of chaos. From her, she said coldly. Sarah was unstable. She was younger, impulsive. She didn't know how to raise a child. She barely knew how to take care of herself. I shook my head. You took me from her. I gave you something better, she said, voice rising. A roof. Stability. A real family. You gave me a lie. Her expression didn't change. She agreed to it. Maybe not at first, but eventually. She knew it was best. I stepped back like her words had slapped me. So that makes it okay? To pretend you're someone you're not? To erase her from my life? She crossed her arms, her calm unraveling just a little. You don't understand what it was like back then. Your father and no, I cut in. Don't drag him into this. He wrote to her. He wanted to be there for me. You both lied. He just didn't have the guts to tell me. She didn't deny it. I saw the letters, I said quietly. I saw what he promised her. What you stole. Silence. Then, finally, she spoke, voice like ice. I raised you. I kissed your scraped knees. I stayed up through every fever. I was the one who made you who you are. No, I said, backing toward the door. You shaped me around a lie. Her eyes followed me, unreadable. Be careful. Nathan. Some truths don't make things better. Some truths just leave scars. I stepped outside without another word. The sun hit me like a slap, but I welcomed the sting. She hadn't cried. She hadn't begged. She didn't even regret it. The woman who raised me wasn't my mother, she was my kidnapper, my captor, my keeper, and I wasn't going to let her story be the only one that got told. I thought I knew who my father was. A strict, no-nonsense veteran. A man of God. Someone the neighbors nodded to at church picnics, who'd served his country and raised a son in a tidy home with trimmed hedges and rules carved in stone. But the deeper I dug, the more I realized Randy Grisham didn't build a life, he manufactured an image. And he buried the truth beneath it like bones. It started with his military records. I filed a request and waited 3 days before a dusty envelope showed up at the post office. There wasn't much: honorable discharge, rank of staff sergeant, 2 overseas deployments. But tucked inside was a disciplinary report from 1992. Failure to report for duty. Allegations of domestic disturbance. Reassigned stateside. My jaw clenched. No details, just whispers. But it painted a picture. He hadn't come home a war hero, he'd come home with something to hide. I went next to the church he'd attended for 25 years, First Baptist on Elm. Pastor Wallace had known my father since before I was born. When I asked if they'd ever counseled my dad during difficult times, the old man paused, adjusted his glasses, and said, "Your father had burdens he didn't like others to carry." What kind of burdens? He hesitated. The kind that involved temptation. And pride. I knew then. He wasn't just talking about war trauma or sin. He was talking about Sarah. At the local library, I sifted through yearbooks. Local bulletins, even dusty newspaper clippings. There, in the July 1993 edition of the Bentonville Courier, I found it: local woman leaves town after family dispute. No names, just a vague reference to a scandal between sisters. But I already knew what it meant. Randy had manipulated them both. Sarah was 22 when she got pregnant. According to Ellie, their mother had just passed, and Sarah had no one left but her sister, and Randy. From what Ellie remembered, Sarah wanted to keep the baby, but the pressure came fast and hard. She was told she was unstable. Immature. Unfit. He convinced her, coerced her, to let them raise me instead. Not out of love, but to keep his new wife from walking out. To preserve the image of the upstanding man he wanted the world to see, he made her believe it was her fault for loving him. That she was the shameful one. It wasn't just betrayal. It was psychological warfare. Abuse, dressed up in sermons and Sunday shoes, and my mother, my real mother, had paid the price in silence and exile. By the time I left the library, my hands were shaking. My father hadn't just stolen me. He'd broken Sarah. Played puppet master to 2 sisters and carved a life from their pain, and now. Now his mask was cracking, and I was the one holding the hammer. It wasn't revenge at first. Not really. At first, it was just about truth. About giving Sarah Ray her voice back, even if she wasn't around to use it herself. About showing Ellie that her mother hadn't been weak or unstable, but brave. Brave enough to carry the weight of love and loss all on her own. But the more I read those letters, the more I piece together timelines and cover-ups, the more I realized something dark had been festering in me for years. A tight, invisible knot I'd mistaken for discipline or duty or respect. It was anger. And now, it had a name, Grisham, so I started scanning each love letter, each desperate apology, the real birth certificate, the military report, the newspaper clipping about Sarah's disappearance. I wrote a summary, careful, calm, factual. No flair. Just the truth, laid bare like an autopsy report. I included dates, names, and a full timeline. Then I sent it anonymously to the Bentonville Gazette. Their lead editor, Mike Pearson, was a stickler for sourcing but had a known appetite for scandal, especially the kind that peeled the layers off respected families like old paint. 3 days later, it hit the front page, small town legacy built on lies. Hidden past of Randy Grisham exposed. A secret child. A family torn by betrayal. A woman pushed into silence. The community reacts. Within hours, the Grisham name became radioactive. The same neighbors who used to wave at our porch turned their faces when they passed. Church friends stopped calling. At First Baptist, whispers followed every prayer request. And my mother, the woman who raised me, locked herself in the house, curtains drawn like the sun itself had turned on her. I watched it all unfold like a man watching a forest fire from the porch he once built. A strange mix of satisfaction and sorrow settled in my chest. Ellie called that night. I read it. She said softly, "I thought you should know. I didn't put your name in it. Doesn't matter. People will figure it out. You okay?" A long pause. "Yeah. I think I am." For the first time in her life, people were talking about her mother without shame. There were questions, rumors, even a few apologies. Truth has a way of echoing through silence like a stone dropped into a still lake, but the ripples cut deep. Later that week, I stood at the edge of my father's grave. No flowers. No visitors. Just a weathered marker and a name that no longer meant what it used to. "You built a kingdom on control," I said aloud. And I just took the walls down. There was no wind. No dramatic thunderclap. Just quiet, but sometimes, that's the loudest kind of justice. I turned and walked away, leaving his name behind like ash in the dirt, because now, finally, the truth had a pulse, and it was louder than any lie he ever told. The grave was nestled beneath a crooked dogwood tree on the edge of Fairlawn Cemetery. The stone was simple: Sarah Ray Henderson, 1971 to 2010. Beloved mother, gone too soon. No flowers. No tribute. Just weathered marble and weeds brushing against the base like fingers forgotten by time. I stood there with Ellie beside me, both of us silent. The wind carried the faint scent of pine. And somewhere in the distance, a lawnmower buzzed lazily, oblivious to the weight pressing down on us. "I used to come here on her birthday," Ellie said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Talk to her. Ask her things." I never got any answers. Until now. I nodded, throat tight. And I never even knew she was mine. That she'd carried me. Wanted me. Loved me. Ellie knelt and brushed a few dead leaves from the headstone. She never stopped hurting. I saw it. She carried your absence like a shadow, even when she pretended it didn't matter. I stepped closer, one hand resting on the cold stone. "I wish I could remember her," I said. Even just her voice. Ellie pulled something from her bag and handed it to me, a small cassette tape. She used to keep voice journals. Most were just random thoughts, prayers, little vents about the day. But this one's about you. I found it a few days ago. My fingers curled around the tape like it might vanish. Thank you. We sat down in the grass, the silence between us now more comforting than heavy. She was robbed, Ellie said. Of her son. Of her family. And you were robbed of a mother who actually wanted you. I looked out over the cemetery, rows of quiet lives marked by names and numbers. But we're not robbed anymore, I said. We know now. And maybe that's something. She gave me a small smile. It's everything. We stayed there for hours. Talking. Laughing a little. Sharing stories. I told her about the time I broke Dad's workshop window with a baseball and blamed the neighbor's kid. She told me how Sarah once painted stars on her ceiling because she couldn't afford a nightlight. For the first time, it felt like I was meeting my family, not through blood or obligation, but through truth. As the sun dipped behind the trees, Ellie stood and brushed off her jeans. So, brothers and sisters, huh? She said, looks like it. I smiled. You stuck with me now. She smirked. Good. I always wanted an older brother to fight for me. We walked back to the truck together, the wind picking up behind us like a sigh of release. The lies were buried now, not beneath shame, but beneath stone and truth, and whatever came next, we would face it together. No more secrets, no more stolen names, just the truth, and a grave made of it. If you found this story gripping, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. There are more dark family secrets and chilling revelations where this came from. Share your thoughts in the comments. What would you do if you uncovered a truth like this?